surprised they're even here. In the literature you sent me about maintenance is the packing adjustments. And if anything else needed, it's probably
Just pull that, stick it down in that hole. That's the place. And open the flap on the bonnet there. Now, what do you usually check before you get anything hot there with a torch?
Water level and pilot fuel level. Oh, you know.
Well, yeah, I think you hit the most important first, water level in the boiler. You want to make sure you have water in the boiler. How are you going to know?
That side gauge is only active when you're steaming.
When the car moves, right?
So that side gauge isn't going to tell you.
Yeah, so you can't.
Wait a minute. I went over these notes too.
If anybody wants to, give him hints, this is all right, because
There's a lead valve on this side. You can make sure there's some water in it. All right? This guy right here.
that's your job.
You just
Four
make-
inches off the bottom.
Just make sure
They
it's...
just open it and load it.
Okay.
They won't hurt you. They won't even have that. You don't have it, you did. Okay.
So that means
Means
one
one
of
of
a 4-inch level?
It could mean that. It also could mean something else. What do you think? Maybe
Airlock.
another-
Couldn't it?
That's-
Airlocks?
That's it.
Okay, it's driven.
Needs to be vented.
Now it's driven.
Needs to be
On
vented.
this car.
Well, the throttle's open, but sometimes, and that normally should vent it, because the throttle's open in the engine, the drip valve's open on the bottom of the steam shaft, and it should be vented. But sometimes that steam pipe is full of water, just by virtue of it having a siphon full. And so I do, you can think, well, where else can I vent it? We usually have a couple places on these cars where we take steam off the top. The way they were made originally, the siphon attachment would be one place. This car, I've taken the siphon valve and made it into a whistle valve so I could vent it there.
So pop the whistle.
I could also vent it
One question. When you siphoned it, you left everything closed.
yeah, right. And
So after it's set for a day...
Next day I usually open the throttle.
Okay.
Mainly because these throttles tend to stick, and they'll stick a little more if they're down tight on the seat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys remember to come back and open the throttle.
Yeah, and I usually also open the bypass valve, not for any critical reason. It's just that when you start to run today, your boiler will be fairly full and you won't want to pump water for a while. So I just do that as a matter of habit. But this one, right here, now that's my firing up valve. This one will vent. See it, it doesn't run right out there now, much better.
Oh, yeah.
So what was that you just opened?
Well, it's right here. The valve's right here, but it comes off the top of the boiler through this. And that's a little stack blower that is a jet of steam down the stack. And the purpose of that is, the Stanleys never had them originally. But if you had burner trouble, if your pilot goes out and you get the burner full of raw fuel or something, with fumes all over the place, well, it's likely to either pop like an explosion, maybe loosening the bonnet, or else it might catch fire and just burn and possibly scorch your hood, depending on the road. So this little jet here will suck all those fumes out a lot quicker. And so it's a very, it's a wonderful thing to have, for instance, in a parade or something. If your main fire doesn't light off the pilot, you know you're loaded out. You can't move to get the air blowing through there to blow things out. So this will suck it out. I mean,
That works off of steam?
that's
Okay.
that's just really good steam. It doesn't
Okay.
use enough steam to notice it. So now.
We know there's water in the boiler, at least 4 inches, but how do we know it's not too full?
Well, you don't, but the fact that we had to vent it to get a full flow here tells us it's just about full. It went down a little bit, there'd be enough air there, and it would be, and it would vent through the tile.
So I need to get a bucket.
Yeah, so you need to get it.
Tell me about the throttle being open. It looks like you can go further up.
A little bit more, that's about all.
It doesn't go to that stop. Okay, I see. That is this guy right here in the front left?
Yeah, either side, but that's good.
Tell me again why you're taking some up, because this too high?
Yeah, the boiler's full of water sitting on.
You need a head space. You
Now,
need head.
I know that, and you're a little handicapped to know that. The reason I know that is that when we flew down the last time, and I checked the tank the next morning, it was down about 4 inches on the tank, so I know that the septic starts cooking the tank. You weren't here to know that.
Right.
So, but I think, now this is a question, and it might be, you come in and you say, I don't know who that had this car last time, and I left it, and there was water there, but I'm not sure where the water is. No, I really want to know. I mean, that's put a hose on here and fill it up, so it runs out the drip on the engine, and you know it's full, then drain the bucket off, and you know where it is.
Or if you, for any reason, drain it empty, suppose you, for whatever reason, or filling a fresh wood, you fill it up to the 4-inch line, right?
Yeah, it's not enough water. It's safe, but it's not enough water.
That would get you started, so you fill at least to the 4-inch line.
Yeah.
And maybe if you fill it for 10 minutes to get to the 4-inch line, fill another 2 inches?
Well, you could, but you know, that's right. You know, we usually fill them all right and drain it. Now, you don't really have to wait for that, all that filthy gallons to drain off.
You can start using the front of the boiler, and we keep the torches.
Well, in the toolbox. Now, did you?
Yeah, I shut the valve.
There is a water tank in this one also, right?
Yeah, the tank's under the back seat.
That's the water tank. You got a 10 feet per inch.
I want nothing open initially, just heat up all 3 of the set tubes, right?
But especially the middle.
This is the pilot.
This is the can.
So I want the block open at this time, doesn't matter.
Don't heat this tube here, so that's just the air. That's a good idea to heat them all, but what you're really working on now is to get the pilot in, so you have to get those doors and hose.
I spent an afternoon in the torch yesterday stripping a running board, Chuck.
But that's what I was saying here. You put it up, engine tank, and you come back,
Here's this one.
yeah. Wanting to do something, or you just
Oh, no, I'm happy to do
going to
something.
observe this way?
No, this is good.
Okay.
I'm fine. Is this configuration pretty much the same as the smaller car?
Well, this configuration is about 1920 finish. However, 90% of the standards you see running today will have this configuration. We all like to burn sport, it's 17S. So we can just get stuff up the car, we can fill up in here.
What does the WD do here when you see them? Or do they even know that?
I have 5 gasoline burners and a different stock. All the other cars are dirty stock.
Tom, am I heating this column as well now? This area?
Not the damage part there. put that nozzles out and check them. I have little screens in these nozzles, and I put a new screen in this side yesterday. The other side, the screen seemed to be all right. The screen kind of fell apart on this last week, and it turned like a gun on one side. And
I just see a flash of fuel here, that's how we're getting warm up.
what you doing? We're keeping lights and pilot, man. Got to come around here and get you up and
You gotta turn it on first, right?
keep the course right in there to get some movement. Outside, let's put it in the big cold light.
It's on.
Did it light?
Well, it's lit.
Take the course away again. We'll tickle it a little bit here on the pin. See, this pin does do the
That's what I was
power.
remembering.
It sounds pretty strong.
That's just to get any of the buildup
Right.
residue in there.
Right.
Oh, that looks better now.
It looks strong.
Yeah, there was
Probably lifting in it.
Yeah, there's a little
Now,
orange
once
in
it
there.
gets hot, it'll stop lifting like that, but it'll lift when you first start, so that's the way it should be. Now you can, if you want, well, you
Hold
can,
the flap.
yeah, you can close the pink hole. Now he sees a little bit more. And you saw a little fuel burning there, and that's what we want to see. Now, this is just nothing technical, but when you start to see fuel burning out the nozzle, just a little bit there, that's just vapor. Fuel has been laying in the vaporizer, and the heat is pulling it through.
Stop burning more coming out of it.
Well, it's cooled down a bit. And I burned some of it off.
I see those.
You'd like to get them both whispering a little bit before...
Yeah, the maybe some, it's starting to get there.
But that has to be turned on, you know.
That's just
That's residual. They're both getting some residual now.
It's just a signal to me when you get it started, it's burning there a little, but it's about hot enough. Give it just a little more now, as we say.
Is the pilot left down after the main burners are lit?
It's all taken off that right.
That left one likes it.
Well, sometimes one will come a little more than the other.
You put a lot of water out.
You know, it's more about a bucket, about a full bucket.
Now, none of that water leaving the cycle to the back tank, right?
No, the tank won't change now, not till you start pumping from the tank. That's enough now. Okay, now just take one more look at your pile and make sure it's all right. It will be, but
Whoa, yep.
Let's see.
okay, Jim wants to look there.
That's it. Okay.
Did you want to try the video there?
Yeah, let's do that.
I better heat my burners up some more then.
Oh, to keep it warm. You made this for the video, right?
For the video. We gotta get in the position where you can see it. Angle down.
Point again.
Right in there. So you want to go a little to your
Okay.
left
You wanna
to
get
see the
over
flame.
The other way.
Get your camera over here to your left
Yeah.
and down a little lower.
Yeah, now
You can
like
see it up
I
in
see
there.
it. Yeah.
Now we'll
Good.
continue to keep these warm. We're getting a little flashing at the burners in this area. Now we're ready to open.
Can you reach over and just put the little window down? That's good.
That's
Okay.
it. And that
Great.
is warm.
Okay.
The screwdriver's here.
Yeah, but what,
Crack it?
what are you doing when you're doing that?
You're bringing primary burning fuel to the burners
From this tank?
from this tank. This tank has to be under pressure.
That's right.
So we need fuel pressure first.
It runs anywhere from 20 to 35 pounds.
So we need
Now, it has no way of recharging itself, so gradually as that pilot burns, the pressure will drop very slowly, and maybe at the end of the day, once you start to do it. And on the main, what's the pressure show there now?
135?
Yeah, well, that's what you're gonna get there. And, so, it's fine. So now you can start with your pilot. Now, this is your fire, this is your pilot, which Chuck already opened. This is your firing up valve, which is what you want now.
And you're gonna crack it
Now,
on.
there's one more thing you might want to do. Just, I mean, you don't necessarily do all these things every time. These are just precautions. You just want to make sure you got plenty of water.
So you didn't go too
Right,
far.
when I took the bucket out, I didn't check that. That's right. So now, this valve I'm gonna crack open.
Well, you're going to open it like a quarter of a turn and close it again. And leave it closed.
Tom, that is the firing up valve, is that correct?
Firing up valve.
My recorder wasn't running at the time.
You made out okay?
Yeah.
Good.
I didn't didn't lock the door.
Did you turn the lights off?
I'll go down and do it.
The 4 switches are right inside the door there.
Okay.
Thanks very much. And did you, how many times did you
This
turn
is just the second time there was a slight hissing there.
Right, leave it off again. Give it a little more when you open it and then turn it off right away. That's the idea, turn it off.
Hey, you're getting some white smoke down here.
Turn it off.
There it is.
So with this off, why is it continuing to burn?
If you got,
So
now
you
it's
got-
vaporizing. What was
you
released
got
from the valve is
fuel.
vaporizing.
In there that's vaporizing.
And you-
Nothing is instantaneous. Sure.
And you don't want to build up a charge, which you don't want. You ever run a settlement? You don't want to build up a charge. You want to make sure. I want to make sure that stops hissing first or not.
No, but it's just, give it one more shot and shut it off again. Come on, good and strong this time. That's what you want to hear, but you don't want to keep it on yet. You want to keep it off. Because it's got the clearance off, it's got the vaporize, and there's a lot of pipe between that valve and up here where the fuel's coming.
Okay, slow it down a little
Give
bit.
it another.
You ever label these valves?
We're still not ready to.
Yeah, I thought that
was my
myself.
question. That was my question, because if the gauge is over there, why isn't the valve next to it the right one? This was hanging on the pilot valve.
Anyway, wherever it
They
is.
ought to have those international symbols of some kind, you know. I mean, like your rear window defogger and things like that on a modern car.
International civil gun. Yeah, I love it. Another one?
Now, that's not vapor yet, is it? Is that?
Oh, yeah.
It is vapor, okay.
There may be a little raw fuel with it, but it's vapor.
Okay.
Yeah, the raw fuel wouldn't burn. You have to have the vapor to burn. Now this time, just crack it about one spoke on, or even less than a spoke.
Do I need to reheat those ports?
No, not anymore.
Now, the pilot is providing the heat.
Yeah.
One
Okay.
full.
But also the main burner is now.
It ought to poof in a minute.
Oh, it's lit. It's burning.
Yeah, it's burning out. It's burning up in there?
Oh,
Now, that means
you don't see any fire. No, it doesn't burn under the grate. This is under the grate.
So later on,
Okay.
we saw something at the vapor. I just missed that now, right?
Well, it'll get completely colorless as it heats up.
Okay.
But now when you switch over to kerosene in a minute, you'll see a little white vapor again because it won't be completely vaporized at first.
All right.
But now your pilot fuel is completely vaporized now.
What's this gas?
It's common fuel. It's common fuel or hexane fuel.
Coleman fuel being like clear white gas?
Used to be aerosol and premium when it's like that.
Now, how is it better to come to
You done with the
Yeah,
That's pressure retaining valve,
yeah, right.
open full?
That's to get, that's
Yeah,
pressure.
well, these are all needle valves, so
Right.
pull, the needle comes right out.
No, but I mean, you want a full turn or two?
Yeah, 1 or 2 turns, right.
Now that's pressurizing for the kerosene flow.
Yeah, but it is pressurized, but as we start to use kerosene, we'll have to pump fuel and pump fuel pressure to keep the pressure up.
But how do you pressurize this tank? I don't see it.
Just by air.
He charged it.
That's a little needle valve,
You're just transferring
air valve.
This one has no fuel pump on it.
Oh, okay, you
No
just
way.
compress the air in here.
Yeah, and as it goes down, you have to...
Up to that 35.
I'm momentarily confused. This valve gave us what?
Gives us this to the main
Some
burner.
pilot fuel.
To the main burner.
We just opened the,
That didn't do anything. The only reason that was closed is to keep fuel from leaking back over
Okay.
long periods of time when it's
Okay.
on a stand. Now, set your fire up valve now. You go with this one the same way you went with this one at first. Give it a shot and then close. Now, it's a lot stronger because you got 100 and some pound
Yes.
pressure ratchet on that one. But you still not got kerosene because of all the other stuff in the line ahead of the kerosene.
They join us upward.
I'm hearing a hissing sound.
Well, yeah.
No, a bacteria.
Well, give her another shot. I don't know if you're hearing back here. It could be just the nice little steam and superheated air if there was some water running in there with blue sea engine.
Thing's hard to see from here.
That taper's back.
When you know the nozzles are clean, everything is clean, but if you keep it on that whistle, it's feeding it too fast.
Right.
Pretty soon it'll come off. So you want to, I like to hear it, like it was very clean, but then you set it down and keep it just below the whistle.
Right.
And you can give it another shot.
So I won't open it that high again.
Well, it's still here again, but I mean,
That's a quarter turn plus or minus a quarter turn.
Well, sometimes it's not quiet like this. When you're out, there's a lot of traffic noise, there's people talking, and, you can't hear the burner as well as we can this morning. And
That's
so-
why I'm asking you that question about when you were at Hershey and the crowds were all around you.
Yeah.
You've been there for 5 hours.
And they're probably all right up here, aren't they?
And the gasoline burner is not as heavy a sound as these are. I mean, they're lighter and harder to hear.
Again?
You need a cherry bomb to go off and get them back about 50 feet.
Now, you can try.
I tried trading places with you there. No, it's okay.
Right.
Understood. Leave it open. Now, it might be too much. If it is, we'll shut it off again.
But that's your main feed valve.
That's Main Street, and it is next to the gate.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
Now you can watch your fuel pressure, and if it gets down below 110, you can pump a little
Okay,
bit.
it's gone to 120 now.
Okay.
For benefit of Jim, who's trying to record this.
Good.
That's good. We operate the valves, and Jim gets vicarious pleasures tonight watching the video over again.
Hey, by golly.
I think it's a great service you do.
If I look at it enough, I might remember it.
No, that's the best way to do it, because you'll get our mistakes and you'll get our
They never
sequence
mark
discussion.
the valve when they built the
They
pump.
never did. Some people do, and I know it would be helpful to you fellas to do that, and I may break down and do that one.
Let's quiet it down again. Give us more.
A little bit more.
A cracking off, or...
Just a
Okay.
little more.
I know what I heard. You ever turn a water faucet on with just a little air in it?
Yeah.
That's what I heard at the valve. I just heard
Well,
it.
I have a hot water spigot up in my bathroom. You turn the thing on, it keeps decreasing until it's down to nothing. These things operate the same way sometimes.
Sure.
It's a little, I don't know what it is behind that needle, but it's something, and sometimes you just working them back and forth, it'll bring it up.
They can aspirate air. That's what happens. They can suck air into the valve due to the flow going past the needle.
What's the full valve for? This full sight.
This guy here?
Yeah.
That's cylinder oil. We don't see anything until we get the engine moving on that.
That wasn't on the other car, was it?
Yeah, all of them have it. Well, all of them except the tiller steers have it.
I don't remember seeing it on that car.
Yeah, it was on there.
We're down at about...
It's supposed to wink every stroke of the pump to show you you're just getting maybe a drop of oil with every stroke. Very little. We use about a quart to 100
Okay,
miles.
there's the list I was talking about. That comes with the kerosene.
Yeah, but even that will, yeah, it's a little hard to it now, but when it gets busy, huh, there won't be any trouble, so.
Right.
Now, we're firing it very easy, which is sort of the way I like to fire a boiler. If you're in a hurry, you give it a little more fire, but you can't flood it now. Everything's hot enough that it'll take it, if you open it up.
I think your guiding words were you can't be in a rush starting a sandwich.
Right. But they, if we open it up, that's where it's going to go through.
Yeah, you don't do that. And you just went below the 110.
That's fine, that's the way a lot of people fire, but it's harder on the boiler, it's shortening for a knife and the heat.
I need the pump, right?
A little bit. But it's easy to sit up in it, like so. Pump it up to a little over 120, and then you're not going to get much anyway, so you can start to fire it.
Yeah, you want to feel? And you can hear...
Watching this get made.
Yeah, I'm watching that.
Let me try that, just out of curiosity.
Now remember I opened this to vet it, I'm gonna close this valve so that it'll just
Okay.
flow steam in.
Well, that's one you opened earlier, getting the water.
You can hear it's under higher pressure. At 10 pounds, it's made.
Now you're starting to hear little steam go through the engine. That's probably it's making a little steam in the shipper here because so we can start to close the throttle down a little, because we don't want it wide open. And the other thing is, this good idea is to put the brakes on. I always leave it off when the car stands, but
Okay,
it's a good idea.
you had the throttle open, and when the throttle's open, you're sending steam back
Yeah, but
to the cylinder.
We're bypassing it, aren't we?
And the
Bypass.
what we call the zip valve is open to go.
So at what point do you get the rear wheel off the ground?
Well, you don't need to normally, but like last Saturday I did, and I'm going to do it today because I want to show you how we would check out and make sure the pumps are working properly and everything. But normally you wouldn't have to jack up and run that way, but we did last week and we waited. Let's turn it down again now, and I'll do it a little more. Just work it there and then come in.
So all you're doing right now is building up the steam generation of the motor.
Yeah, that number's only slow down, but, you know, you gotta heat all that water. And even with what we drew off, there's still probably about 12 gallons of water in the water. So we have to heat all that up before we...
Well, where does this eventually get left? How far open? Just that little bit?
You will find that one spoke on this is almost the same as wide open. But it's like Mel says, it draws a little air once in a while or something, and once in a while you sometimes have to jiggle it.
So you're feathering that by sense, by experience.
By sound and...
Yeah, he's got it by 50 years.
I also know by that gurgling whiskey sound of the steam coming out the drip valve back there that the boiler is still plenty full. Because if it were not, it would be much quieter. And you wouldn't hear much, really, until the pressure goes up more than they can.
Is that some condensation occurring once the steam goes back into the system?
No, it's from, it's still that you didn't drop enough water off.
Should we draw more? Could we hear it?
It won't hurt. And we probably stay
Are you saving water anywhere?
we'll draw it out there.
Up the drain? You want that down the drain or? So a whistle noise told you the little piece full.
5 inches, so it's into the quarter stroke. So you pump the inch and a quarter stroke. So when we back up and start to run the engine, you'll see how that works for the rest of the day. Now I'm going to take the front floorboards out so you can
That's what I was wondering about. They come forward or front to back?
Yeah, hold the pedal up a little bit and I'll push it a little bit.
We want to see this guy move.
Now you might want to take this one out, but that's all we need out. I think we can see it out.
Okay, you see both pumps? There's one here and there's one here.
Yeah. Oh, they don't move, but you still don't know where it's pumping. I'm going to show you how you set that. Might need a little fuel pressure, needs about 110. And we got about 200 pounds of steam there, almost, so we're coming along.
What's the lowest that fuel pumper pressure should be then? 110?
Well, if it gets down below 100, it's no harm, but if it goes too low, you start to pull your air cushion away from your little pressure tank. See, it's like a water system in your house where you have a
Oh, because this has never been shut off, so it's... This
Well,
isn't
see,
really...
we're pumping fuel, but we also have an air cushion on top of those little pressure tanks. So they're roughly half fuel and half air. That's what gives us an even flow to the bottom.
This is going to be fuel. This is fuel.
Jim, with
Yeah.
too much weight over there, I can't keep
Ah,
the
sorry,
level
sorry.
on the gas here.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't want to roll.
No, no.
Now, we're just closing this a little bit.
the one thing I noticed that the first statement about running the engine in your the lecture you sent was previously you told us the caution that no pump is working unless the engine's running.
That's right. Now I'm gonna show you how you, of course we know the pumps were working or we wouldn't have brought it down in the glass as fast, but I'm gonna show you how we check it.
This is a plumber's nightmare.
What was the valve he just turned? I mean, that lever?
That's
no,
the problem.
No, the lower lever.
This one right here.
Yeah.
The front pump bypass. I think that's the bypass. Yeah, it's the front pump. Got a point. Hey, you'd be late for work already, wouldn't you?
I used to go get my grandpa. He had a 55 Cadillac, brand new. I was a senior in high school, and I'd go down on Sunday to give him a ride, and I'd say, "Where's Gramps?" My grandmother would say, "Well, he's out in the car." Now, he'd been out in the car about 45 minutes.
Warming it up.
No, reading the owner's manual.
Every week?
Well, just about. And I'd go out there, and are you ready? Yep. I'd turn the key, and away we go. And he wouldn't say a word, but he'd been reading that manual.
Now, we're listening. This is the water from the tank coming into the pump through these suction hoses, and they do much better if they're soft rather than real hard rubber. The old ones were kind of a gum rubber. We use these.
But this Viton does age and crack.
Oh yeah, you have to renew it once in a while.
Yeah.
But this is the inlet check. This is the outlet check. We have another pump up here just like it, one on each end of the shaft. Remember, this is 1 1.25 inch stroke working off that rocker back there. So these are what we call the short stroke or fast running pumps. They run at the same speed as the engine. Okay. Now this and that, I don't get much. I get little, but now let me put the pressure to it by closing the bypass. It squirts. It squirts. Oh, this is open. This bypass is open. I don't know how it got open. Maybe I opened it.
Yeah, there it is. Okay.
There you go.
Now she's pumping against boiler pressure, see? Now, that's just the back pump we're getting here. Even though the front pump is pumping, there's a check valve between the two, so it's not showing up back here. Now, if I want to check.
Are there actually holes in that?
That's straight under the flat.
But it's so uniform coming out of there, isn't it?
Now, you want to check this one. Get both pumps. See that? See, you got twice as many squirts.
Yeah.
See, it's reflecting both this pump and your front one. Now, if I bypass the back one, you'll just get the one.
All right.
See that?
You got to understand the plumbing to know that. Yeah.
You
All right.
do.
Bypass both of them, you won't get much.
Yeah.
I mean, you get it, but you don't get it like really squirting like it was.
Tom, since that's got considerable pressure, you better to close that under bypass conditions or under pressure as you did.
Either way.
You want to check it under pressure, obviously.
Let's close what? The taking the
those
cap
blades.
off?
Yeah.
Probably better without pressure, but
And then you got to check it again anyway.
okay, now she's just bypassing now because it's down in the glass, you see, and we really don't want to pump water. But now, let's wear the steam in.
Steam's up to 600. You got to let some off?
No, we just shut our fire off now. Now,
Is that operating pressure, 600?
yeah, but we know this is automatic stuff.
Could you turn the light towards the gauges? Okay, that's good.
It should be blowing.
Super.
Wouldn't blow, no.
Okay,
It should be relieving.
that's good. you hang it back up. It was just shining into the camera.
Relieve it so it just closes the valve and turns the fuel off.
How do we know it didn't?
Because the pressure went on up to 600. As soon as it shut off, it had to shut the valve. It's off now because I shut it off my hand. It should be off anyway. Let's see if it is. Yeah, it's off anyway. No, it's a diaphragm. Well, it shouldn't come on. It shouldn't come on because
Pressure against that diaphragm closes the valve.
all
right, it seems to have settled down.
Steam on the top and then against the spring.
Yeah, it's settled down.
Well, it settled down because it shut off by hand, but it really shouldn't come on with 600 pounds there. The factory used to set them at 600, but we never carry that much now usually. Some people do.
Tom, this has been 40 minutes. Is this a normal startup? Or taking a little longer because you're explaining things?
That took 3 times as long because of my explaining things. If you're in a hurry, you better drop out of the meeting.
No, I'm just curious. It just got to 600. You didn't delay that, did you?
Oh, I would have gone out with 250, 300
Oh,
if
okay.
I'd have
Yeah.
been in a hurry.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
wouldn't have
okay.
waited.
You wouldn't have jacked
I
up the
wouldn't-
back?
wouldn't have
You would have
jacked
checked
up
the
the
pumps at another time?
Okay, that's why I wondered. Because I thought you told us before it was 20 or 30 minutes in a normal condition.
Yeah, that's right, 40 minutes.
The fuel pressure's up to 135 now.
Yeah, when I hit it bypass,
Now, what's the valve?
that's the main fuel shut off. We usually leave it open all the time. The only reason we close that would be if we needed to take this valve out, do some work or packing or something, or if we had a leak in our piping going over the steam automatic or something.
I tell you, that is sure is worse than an airplane. An airplane at least got a warning light. And you've got a 2.2 feature. Yeah. A friend of mine,
And you shut the steam pressure off by throttling back. I mean, the flow of steam you shut off.
right.
So where's it going? Is it still building?
No, it shouldn't be. The burner's off.
You're now idling down.
But now the pilot is still on. There's a hissing up here.
Yeah, the pilot's still in.
Okay.
I put the floorboards back in if you want. I'll open the drip valve here, we can go over the idea. Just in case no, it has to be done in the back first. Maybe you can either stick that
what point do you blow that boiler down or let the steam out? You let it cool off some more?
Well, we're gonna ride now, of course, but when we get done with our traveling, and we're done for the day, that's when we put the pilot out and then blow the boiler down.
Okay. Okay, the condition we're in now is fuel is off, steam chest is still full, bypass is open or closed? Steam bypass.
Well,
You're not venting steam, so the steam bypass is closed.
I don't have a steam bypass unless
Excuse me.
the drip valve, you mean on the end?
Drip valve,
on
yes.
the cylinder? It's open because it should be open when you stop like this.
Okay.
I mean, I just opened it. It was closed, of course, when we were running the engine.
So shouldn't we be hearing steam exiting?
No, because if the throttle's tight.
Okay, because it's after the
Not even
throttle.
getting back there.
Okay, it's not, that's beyond the throttle.
The throttle's locked closed now. So.
Nothing's coming from the steam chest then?
Now this little bit of smoke is probably vapor that's just oozing through. Since we shut off the fire, little vapor oozing through. Now this let me show you now. This is that's the track blower, which is an add-on, but down a couple of other things that probably coming out today. I don't know where it's going, but that wasn't, of course, that wasn't anything bad, but if that was really loaded up, there'd be raw fuel in there with paper and stuff. And
You wouldn't want it, yeah, as soon as that gets back to the pilot, you'd have trouble.
that's pretty much sucked out, so there's no more smoke.
That's an aspirator valve?
It's just a
that
tiny jet.
draws
It's
the gas,
what it is,
and it
yeah.
draws
Yeah, down in the shaft there and the down part. Now we can close. Purposely do not, I'll tell you why. If you ever do get loaded up here with fuel when you have an explosion, it tends to, or the pressure, not in the boiler, but the pressure in the firebox and up under that bonnet is terrific for an instant, and then it's all gone. In other words, pop like a cannon going off.
It's better to have the cap able to go.
Yeah, it usually loosens up the bonnet here, and you have to do a little
It's not like you've been there
paper
before.
hanging here, you know. But the hood also, and if it can't do that, it bends the flap or something up here.
Yeah, when do you open this up?
I never do, but you can. Some people used to gun them that way.
Uh-huh.
But it's a little hard on the paint if you fire up that way.
Yeah.
You know, hit the
Sure.
It's better to be cleaned up.
Now we can check pilot again.
87 years old.
The pilot's okay. Now see, it's down on the grate a little better than when we first lit it.
Yeah,
Because it formed up. And
Coming right out of
that's a nice
the
pilot.
porch there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let me
Oh, I
get in
think
there and
What's this right here that's coming out to nowheres? This little tube.
Well, that was probably the line for the torch. See, originally they had a torch that worked off the same line as the headlights.
Oh.
Suddenly, that had to be a little tiny pipe like that. There's a gas line.
Tom, we had the burner running too high, or we worked too long?
No,
The
the-
steam built up.
It wasn't our fault. The steam automatic just hung up and didn't shut off at
Okay.
550. But that, you normally would be watching the steam gauge anyway. But as
Right.
I say, lots of times I'd be going out of here with 300 pounds and
You'd be
300 to 400, build up on the road to where you want to carry it. And,
Let's say that steam automatic ought to be serviced?
well, it says it either needs to be used to get limbered up a little, or else if it doesn't correct itself, yeah, it needs to be taken apart and cleaned up.
I see you use the early treatment, and that's wrapping it a few times.
Yeah, can't fix it, did it with a hammer.
Okay.
did last Saturday, was took a ride on the road. I tried to explain. I did the driving on the road, and then came back here, and everybody drove the car around the driveway. Well, we'll try that again. If you want to go up the road a little bit, we can, but I think it's a little safer so you get the feel of it and the brakes and all that stuff just around the yard.
By all means.
So that's what it is.
I know, I've had a full break this morning.
You work all the knobs, get up front.
I work all the knobs, get up front.
Okay, I'll get in the back with the video. That's good. If I sit on the left, then I can maybe see a little better.
The fuel, so you're not even going to bring that fuel back on. Three back here.
I don't believe so. Normally I couldn't, but it didn't come on. So well, it's trying to. Well, it's seeping through. It's not coming on strong.
My question would be, when you do that again, if you've got to go through the cracking process? Or since things are hot, you shouldn't need to?
A little bit of cracking, but not like when you first start. Maybe a time or two on the cracking. All right, now,
No, I think this is good right here.
if I hadn't had the car jacked up, the engine wouldn't be warmed up quite as good as it is now. I mean, we've been running it and it's nice and warm, but I would open the drip a little bit, and I would go very easy. And I would probably work back and forth a little like this to work the water out. As it is, I don't really need to do that because when I work, I don't even need the drip open because things are drying up back there.
You want to exercise the, you want to clear of any condensate?
That's right, yeah.
Now, which pedal's which down there, Tom?
Well,
The brakes on the right?
Brake is the usual place, yeah, and the left pedal is the reverse. Hook up and reverse. Now I'm still in the full forward position or the starting position on these pedals, and I won't hook up till we get on the road and get up 10, 15 miles an hour, and then I'll hook up.
Now, what does hookup mean?
Hookup means you use less steam and you have less power. It cuts back the steam.
Overdrive.
Well, it cuts back the emission of steam on each stroke, so
That was a question I had, is what hookup meant.
cutoff is another word for it.
Well, you were right about another thing.
But,
Definitely quiet.
now, since this is kind of downgrade, I can really hook up.
So you've ridden in one before, haven't you?
Oh, yeah.
Where's the hookup?
Left pedal. I'm hooked up.
Left pedal?
Now I'm unhooked. Now I'm hooked up. The notch there.
Okay, that's where
Okay.
the term comes from, then. It does a fall.
Okay.
Now I'm in the running position. Now steam is down to about 500, but I want to watch my oil winking too. It's pretty flat, but it may be even hard to see it winking. But when it's black like this, you know that oil's going through it. And I think on certain apps, lighting up a little, you might see it blinking. But anyway, we'll keep watching. It'll do better the longer we run and that oil gets warmed up and gets lighter. That oil is so heavy, you can't hardly pump it in cold weather.
What grade is it?
It's steam cylinder oil, and it doesn't really equate to an SAE grade.
All right.
But now we're having a pretty good shot. Heard it light, hear it whistle a little bit.
Yes.
Another shot, off. Now leave it on just a little.
And I do know that people have heard that whistle and thought it was steam whistle. You mentioned that in the early classes, too. It's actually the fuel burner.
How much did you open up that
Well, not
valve?
open much yet because I was afraid it would come a little raw. I need a little bit more to make enough steam here. I'm open, well, still less than one spoke, about half the spoke here.
Okay. But it's just barely open then.
Right, it's barely open. But we're not making much steam either. We're just about holding more liquid there. Now I've opened it a little more. It should be about wide open now. But we're not pumping any water, remember, because we started out with a full boiler. This has been, the bypass has been open. So we've just been bypassing water. So we should be making steam, but we're not putting any water in. Well, now we're coming up now.
Yeah, it's coming up.
And this is upgrade, but very little here, just to throw the trick. Now it came up in the back. Notice that?
Right.
I'm going to put one pump on. I mean, this one's open for one pump. It's open. You notice a little different sound to the pump.
Yes. Yeah.
Every car is different.
They're laboring.
This one, you hear that click more on one pump than you will on two. If you put both of them on, they kind of get quieter again. I don't know why that is, but anyway. One pump's a nice way to feed the boiler. You don't knock your steam too bad, and now it's pretty much down to that again. Partly of that's because we went around the curve that way, water being thrown over to this side of the boiler. Indicators on now. We go back, it makes them up in the glass again. There it comes, back up a little bit. See that?
Yep.
Throwing the water over to that side. Also going upgrade, it'll be down lower in the glass than going down grade. Because of where the indicator is on the boiler. Now we're just pumping with one pump.
Seem to be holding the 500 plus, 550.
Yeah, now she should be shutting off shortly. We'll see if it does this time. It keeps climbing up.
How will you know that while riding? Fuel pressure will pop up?
No, you hardly notice it on fuel pressure. You just watch the stop sign up here, and I can tell whether the steam keeps on going up or whether the fire's pretty much off when we stop here. That column is going to warm up a little because there's not as much cold water pumping through it. It comes up a little more, dances around a little bit. But the fire did shut off. See, I didn't shut it off.
Yeah.
That's the way it should work.
I see your winker now.
Now I came back into unhooked because of starting and a little bit of a grade here. And I'm going to leave it unhooked until we get back to the top of this grade, and then I'll hook it up again. And right here I need maximum power.
Your burner should start to come back on automatically now, right?
Yep, it should.
Stanley Brothers must have had something going up the mountain to the east.
Notice this came down at the glass because we're going uphill. Throwing it back, and now we're going to the top. We use too much steam and unhooked, but it's easier on the engine to, when you're on a pretty good pull at slow speeds, to be unhooked like that.
Now, each time you back your throttle down and then re-engage, you want to be on the positive side of the control?
Well, mainly just for speed control, I guess. I mean, it's not the right speed. On the level, you can usually find a good place here, and sometimes you can run for miles without touching the throttle. Since I know the terrain and know that the hill is about half, 3/4 of a mile more, I can cheat a little bit. By cheating, I throw my pumps off at the expense of water to keep my steam pressure up.
Okay.
Because if I kept pumping cold water in, it's going to knock the steam work going up this grade. I'm acknowledging the fact that when I get to the top of the grade, I'm a little lower on water than I normally would like to carry it. So I still have my steam up there.
So you have to constantly balance that and watch it.
Yeah, but where you don't know the road, you can't take those chances. So you just have to go up the grade a little bit slower to keep your steam level.
Wow.
What happened?
He lost his collector's item, he thought. He got it, he got it.
I got it. Yeah, I got it.
He was afraid he lost his collector's item.
I had it drawn down pretty tight with that cut case through there.
Yeah, I didn't bother unhooking there, but my speed is, well, it's almost 20, and you don't need that.
You have to keep your momentum just as you would if you were driving a truck.
Well, it helps, yeah.
In that sense, it's not too much different than the Model T. You got to plan your hills on those.
Yeah, the thing to be careful of, Jim, when you're used to a T is right here.
It's just the opposite.
Just the opposite, yeah.
It's just like my tractor, so I just have to visualize I'm driving an Alice Chalmers tractor.
Now, see, I'm at the top of the grade. I didn't pump any water. My water's a little low. See where it is in the glass? I'm going to put my pump on. I'm going to get downhill now for the next mile or more. But when you don't know the terrain, you wouldn't really want to get your water that low because you might have 2 more miles of upgrade, you know, if you don't know that.
So you have to, if you're going to run a good tour, you've got to go plot the road once, don't you?
Well,
Or look ahead.
when you're on a tour, of course, you don't know the roads like you do around home, so you do drive a little differently.
Sure.
I still, when I say take a chance, I imagine this boiler's 14 inches high, and I imagine there's still 9 inches of water in the boiler, even where it is now. But I normally like to carry 11 or 12. Now, with one pump, it won't come down in the glass as fast as if I had 2. But the steam automatic's working all right now.
Yeah, I saw the pressure come back up.
And then it shut off. And you get a little smell, too. You usually know it's shutting off because the fumes are losing.
Yeah. I wonder what that was. That's the first I'd noticed it, really.
Well, there's another message here, too. Driving is a separate whole technology.
It sure is.
Now, if I want to bring that down quicker in the glass, I'll put both pumps on. I don't need steam now. I'm just going to drift, you see. And that's the trick where you know the terrain. You pump going downhill and you don't pump going uphill.
You're using both pumps now?
Right now, yeah.
Okay.
And it's not instantaneous. That's the thing. Stanley, sometimes all your indicators are a mile behind you. In other words, you would think I was lower in the boiler now than when we started down the grade. Well, we haven't used any steam coming down the grade, so it just takes a while for that indicator to cool off enough again to drop down in the glass.
Plus, you're going downhill.
Plus, you're going downhill, so the indicator's high in the boiler, right? Now, I really don't want to flood the boiler with too much water, so I'm going to go back on one pump.
So you're leading where you believe that boiler will be.
Yeah, right. And I think when we start up this grade, it may come right down to glass again, I think.
You're still hitting hook? Not hook. You are.
Getting down, but maybe not quite all the way down.
It's still creeping down.
I did unhook there, I might not need it to. Now, one pump should track the way back. This fella never drove one of these things before.
This guy doesn't believe you can get by him. He's right.
Because you always want to know where the brake handle is, and you have to make a quick stop. And
Right.
go on both sides.
Now, those are just on the rear brakes, on the rear wheels?
Right, foot brake is external band, and the hand brake internal on the same drums.
Okay.
What's that guy's name, Tom? I know.
John, yeah, he's in the club.
I don't know his name.
I do. John. Huh? John.
John.
Yeah.
Lawrence?
No,
that's not John
no. I'll come up with it before we get back.
John Lawrence lives in Kimberlyville.
Right.
Now the steam automatic's working fine now. You know, I just stuck there when we were firing up because I haven't touched the main fire valve for a while. It's hanging there between 500 and 550.
Right. Well, I think your analogy is good too. It's like an airplane. You've got to keep your mind on the instruments and on the fly on what you're doing.
Fuel pressure, so it's nice and constant.
Yes, that's wavered very slightly. Only.
Now, whenever I'm going to stop, I always like to have the boiler fairly full of water, and yet I don't want to flood it pulling in our driveway, you know, so it's just about right, I'd say. There's plenty of water in there. On the indicator, it's really just at the right tank. Go around the curve to the right, comes up a little bit. Go around the curve to the left.
As soon as you straighten out, it's starting to move back down again.
I also use the set fire off by hand before a little bit before we're going to stop. I'll hold your hand out. No, I don't want anything back here. Now I unhooked again for pulling in here. Fire's off.
Now at this point, your water, you want to bypass your water too? Because you're not going to make more water?
No, I'll leave one pump. It's ready to
Oh, because you're eventually going to siphon it up again.
Yeah. You're probably going to drive around the driveway for a while now, so. Now I'm in the reverse position with my pedals, you see. Although I'm not feeding any steam, we're just drifting, but...
I bet you
Go on. Doesn't really matter where our water bypass valves are when we're stopped.
You're manually off and fuel low.
Yeah, I shut that off just before we turn in the driveway.
So is there any need to continue running the pilot at that point?
Yeah, you want, well, if you're going to put the car away for the day, you wouldn't.
Right,
You'd shut
okay.
the pilot off, but if
Ordinarily.
we're going out again in an hour, we leave it on.
Tom, would you repeat the last sequence there of locking the throttle and the rest of it because my recorder was off?
Well, you lock the throttle for two reasons, but the main one is safety, so somebody won't come along and hit it and, you know, the car takes off. But the other reason is that sometimes a throttle kind of has to be held down tight to seat good.
Mm-hmm.
But safety is the main reason.
And then the other items of opening the drip valve and that sequence, I missed that.
You open the drip valve just because you don't want any pressure build up in your steam chest, and if there's any leak at all in the throttle, it would build up a little bit, and this, of course, lets it all just bleed out the bottom. And we put the brake on for obvious reasons, and we close the pressure retaining valve again, just to keep the fuel pressure off the fuel automatic, which is that little thing under my feet, and off the packing and the fuel pump and that kind of thing. Actually, there's a little check valve right next to this pressure retaining valve anyway down under there, and it's supposed to hold. So chances are, if you forget to close that, you come back in an hour, you won't have lost any fuel pressure. But I have seen them drop back when this is left open, so it just depends on whether everything's holding good.
I think one of the final test requirements is going to be to name all the valves correctly.
after I label them all.
Yeah,
okay.
That's cheating.
Yeah, you gotta label them. My goodness.
And we've sold cars to people years ago, and they've insisted, you know, that all the valves had to be labeled. So I put labels on them, but I guess I don't like to see them labeled. But we can just put temporary tags on them.
I can relate to, my brother used to be a sailing instructor, and I can relate this to learning to sail. There's nothing difficult about it, but if you do things in the wrong sequence, you'll capsize. Now, capsizing itself isn't bad. Shutting down your boiler probably wouldn't be bad, depending on how you did it.
Yeah.
But the terminology, what you need to think of first, and for instance, right now, if you told me to hit a certain valve, I might figure it out. But your terminology is not in my heart yet. So, yeah, there's
Right. Well, this one you use a lot driving along. This is your water bypass, on and on.
water bypass,
So
right?
it's very easy to get to. And I think almost without exception, well, there are exceptions in the later condensing cars, but for most of the Stanleys I have, that bypass valve is in the same place right here, right under the steering column. This valve is almost always, this retaining valve is almost always in the same place. On the left-hand drive cars, it's still the outside
To
valve.
the outside,
Yeah,
right.
the second one is almost always your bypass for your rear pump. And again, on the condensing cars, left-hand drive, and that one is left. This will be the inside. It'll be next to it, but this is water. This is fuel. This is water. This one on this car is an add-on. It too is in the whistle line or something, so that wouldn't normally be there. This one, as I guess was it you, Herb, that was asking the difference between this and this, were they in the same line? They're not in the same line. This one again, see, in normal operation, your fuel pump is putting fuel back into your pressure tanks until a little automatic diaphragm valve in there is satisfied that it's up to pressure, and then it starts to bypass back to your fuel tank. But this always has to be open when you're running to allow that to function. In other words, in order to pump from your pumps, either hand pump or your power fuel pump, to get back to the fuel tanks, this has to be open. So this is open when in motion, and also in firing up. But when you stop for any length of time, you close it, which takes the pressure off the packing glands on your fuel pumps and off that diaphragm in your little automatic down there. So really, the last Stanleys didn't even have it. They relied completely on the check valve, which is under here right next to it anyway. And that check valve, if it's holding 100%, you wouldn't need this, but this is just a safety. So it's closed now because we're stopped, but before we start, we'll open it. But that's anything. And then the next one that's used the most would be your main fire valve here. And see, this is your pilot, and it stays on. See, it's open a turn or something. Now, if we wait long enough, we'd probably want to start on the firing up valve again. But if with a good strong pilot and we only stop 5 or 10 minutes, we won't use that. We'll go right with the kerosene.
Is that firing up valve an add-on?
To this extent, it probably was added on about 1913.
Right.
It was part of the kit that the factory sold for converting to kerosene burners. This car originally would have had a gasoline burner. When the kerosene burners came out in 13 or 14, everybody with cars of this age wanted to convert them to kerosene. It was better in many ways. It smelled worse, but in every other way it was better. So they sold the pilot tank, the little pilot gauge and fill, the vaporizer for the kerosene because it took more vaporizer, and your firing up valve. That was all part of the kit that came with it. Okay, if you want to Let me out now, I'll let somebody back of the wheel.
Show us how it's done, Chuck.
Go first.
You want to go first?
Show us how it's done.
I didn't get to see half of what was there.
Now just look at the pilot again, Chuck, to make sure it's all right. You have to slide that little door open. That's it.
Oh, yeah.
Good?
Right down there like it was.
Okay. Now see that pilot draws air through this tube here from the bottom. This is not a Stanley pilot. This pilot was made by a company called Krugman in New York City in the early 20s. They made parts for Stanley cars. They never built any cars, but they built burners and boilers and pilots and different things. Well, this is a Stanley burner, but it does have a Krugman pilot, and Krugman's claim on this pilot, Stanley doesn't have this tube, so it draws the air straight in the front. And they claim the pilot wouldn't blow out as easy with this because,
Yeah.
you know, and they probably are right. I mean,
Rainy weather, draft,
yeah, so,
yeah, debris.
but that's where it's getting the air, and then this is kind of all sealed off in front of you. So this is your pilot fuel coming down under pressure, and it wouldn't be vaporized at this point. It goes through a little U-tube just over the pilot casting in there. You don't want much vaporization, but it goes over that U-tube, and it comes out vapor here, and then down through a little nozzle which has a pin attached to this screw. And we work the screw, we tickle the pin a little bit.
Is there a check valve anywhere in that line?
No. Well,
What stops the vapor from coming back up the line?
just the pressure from the tank.
Oh, okay.
Is
You got
against,
fuel
is
pressure
against the
behind it.
nozzle. See, the nozzle is the restriction, because it really doesn't matter how much you open that pilot valve. You're just going to get what goes through the nozzle, and that's how you adjust the strength of the pilot. If it's not quite strong enough, you just file that pin a little bit. But if you get too much, then you don't pull enough air with it, and it'll go yellow.
When you said this was a gas-fired one, when you say gas, you're still talking about the white of that era?
Yeah, in those days, gasoline was white, had no lead in it, and it was, you know, unrefined to what it is now. And they used that in both the pilot and the main.
And they
Only one
charged extra to
system.
put lead in it, and then they charged extra to take the lead out.
Yeah. But they didn't have a pilot tank because it was just one system for pilot and main, so your pilot had to burn on 100 plus pounds fuel pressure too, if that's what you were carrying on the main. And they were a little more temperamental, but I had 5 of them, and I make out with them. But these are less troublesome. These are better. The others, I don't know that I like to walk away from them for several hours without being there to check on them. These, if they're burning right up, you know, I have no fear. I'll go away all day and come back if needed. So it's fine to do like this one right now. Route, Chuck, is just around the circle, keep going around.
Go fast and turn left, NASCAR. All right. So I've got to open up.
Yeah, take your mask and hold that down there and get that squeeze.
Oh, it goes the other way.
Just enough to clear it right down.
Okay.
Open your retaining, press the retaining valve on the floor there.
That's
That's the one at the outside.
No, when you say open, just
Oh, turn herself.
A turn for you is not a revolution, right?
Turn is a spoke for 7 to the turn.
Okay. Because sometimes you said turn, and it's a spoke. It's one spoke.
Yeah, a turn is a full revolution.
Okay. Good.
Then your drip valve is open, so you need to close that.
no, that wasn't only this.
See, there's a couple of universal points in this.
Yeah, that was about that was more than
Yeah, probably.
Now you can hear it.
Got it now.
500.
That's why I just looking at 500.
Burner probably won't come on because of it's shut off on the automatic, so we'll get moving a little bit and then we'll try to get it on.
Didn't you shut it off manually when you stopped?
Yeah, but it was still up in the range of... Okay, we got it. When you hear that fuel going, squeaking going through that valve, and then we heard the burn light. See, I just gave it a shot now, that's all. It may not be on full because I think the automatic started partially.
I didn't get to see these pedals. What do they do?
Let me trade places here just a second. All right.
Wait, just running around the driveway will stay in its starting
Okay.
position. Now that's,
And this is strictly a brake.
now when you want to back up, backing in here at the last, then you hold these all the way to the floor.
Both of them.
And feed both of them, and feed a little steam.
Okay. So releasing the brakes the last thing we gotta do now.
Yeah. Now we're ready to go. Now you kind of have to get the feel of the throttle. It'll be a little stiff. Sometimes it's better to keep it hard.
There he goes.
I'm on to go straight ahead.
I'm going to back my car up. I think it's sticking out there a little too far.
Good the hell out
I'm not.
He came out the first time on that.
Yeah.
He drives close to the curb. You guys drive, close to the edge of the road, and when he hits
In the beginning. Here comes Chuck. This is his second time around, at least.
We're on lap 5, I think.
Oh, is it? Okay.
And that's only two-wheel brake. He doesn't have the modified brake on this.
The brakes are not bad for an antique vehicle. Not bad at all. Tom kept saying the brakes were,
My mechanicals are pretty good.
On what vehicle do you have?
33 Pontiac.
Okay.
35 Ford. They're pretty stiff.
No, it's not dragging it down to the creek.
Really all fixed up, and the rough ones go for anywhere from prices for parts up to, maybe 15 grand. And then if they're
All right.
Mel, could you go through the shutting down sequence?
I'm going to lock down the throttle.
Okay.
I'm going to open the bypass several turns. Pull the handbrake. Close the outside. Now we opened this valve.
Yeah, well, we'll just leave that.
Leave it.
That'll be only one pump. And I
Pulling the bypass, Bill. Now what is that bypassing?
that's not a bypass. It's which one, Chuck?
The first one on the right.
That's the pressure retaining valve.
That's on the fuel system?
Fuel pressure.
Okay.
Not a bypass.
And I already closed the main fire valve.
Right, I saw you do that.
Are you doing that with every hesitation?
Yeah. Pressure stayed up too.
Okay. So we'll get moving and get down to 500.
If you press it once, record goes on.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, and its record is on right now.
Okay.
It's
Close the drip valve, opening valve. That's not a rock.
What's that?
Looks like the head of a nail sticking out.
Okay, close the drip valve. Pressure retaining valve before.
That's the right juice. Okay.
Oh, I see the plumbing you're talking about.
Yeah.
Around the boiler. The first, until the power tank, the first thing you want to make sure is there's enough water in the tank. And the one we started with right up here, so that's going to be all we use of the day, of course we didn't run it.
Right.
But that's plenty for it to siphon full. Actually, these fellows come at 2 o'clock, so it doesn't have time to siphon full anyway, so I have to fill it with a hose, because normally I wouldn't blow down, you know, for another trip or two, but I want to do it just so we get through the process.
How do you check?
Sometimes, yeah,
How do you check your fuel level?
I have to check it with a stick.
You gotta go-
The fuel tank's under the front seat, and you have to use it.
I didn't think I'd seen any kind of a heat site.
The pilot will probably take 5 minutes to go out unless we speed it up. It's a little weaker, but there's so much fuel in the line.
Right.
So we speed it up by releasing the pressure of this screw here a little bit. And release it very fast so that it's in enough to kind of adjust it in the head. One of the comical things, and there are a lot of comical things that can happen with these cars. I've had the flame light out of these.
I say moving out of the way.
You notice he didn't say, don't be behind you.
No, there it goes. There.
I saw that.
I got the hint.
Pretty much. See it blew it off. Can you see it weak or is it out?
There's still a hint of flame.
Just a little while.
A hint of flame.
We'll wait a few more seconds. Now this car has 2 blow-down valves, and actually they're blowing from the opposite sides of the boiler. One from around here, one here, but they're blowing from opposite sides of the boiler. Originally these cars only had 1, and some people now are putting 4 on. I have 4 on my big car that I make the long trips in, but the others only have 2. But I think 2 is a good idea because you're relying on that scouring action and the terrific velocity through these blowdowns to clean the boiler. I mean, that's the theory behind it. And it does a remarkably good job, but you know, you've really not cleaned it everywhere, 100%. Soda once in a while, but I don't normally use that around home here because it's we have very soft water. We have spring water, 1 grain of hardness. It's a little bit low on pH, about 6.4, which is higher than a lot of the well. Yeah, just
Dragon.
stand out of the way and, you know, give it, I'll tell you, you know, full of steam, dry steam, and they still have 300 pounds or so, but we won't go far. We might be able to get from here to the house, and that'd be about it. Because the reserve is all gone.
If you can put it back in the garage.
But if the boiler is dirty,
You get oil? Yeah. Well, you won't get oil on a non-conventional, but you might get a little, if it's a new boiler, or if it's a boiler that you just, a new boiler that you just put the piece in.
Did you get particles, fragments?
Yeah, that's just nice. On a trip, you know, you take water any place, you'd be amazed the junk that comes out of that boiler sometimes. Sometimes it's black.
You know, in Arizona, the water had a lot of, like salts in it. And you get a white residue in all of your valves in the house. Pots and pans.
You live out there?
I don't worry about drip being open for wet steam, because there's no wet steam there. There's nothing but dry stuff, man.
It's amazing.
Gosh, it's just a different concept than we're used to, that's all.
Sure is.
This was closed. I closed my second bypass. When both bypasses closed, and I want enough water in the water tank so that when the steam goes down, vacuum develops in the boiler, it'll suck itself full. All he ever drove much was the 4 or 5 days up there in Maine. From what they told me, he was sitting there watching every gauge and every and watching the winker and you know everything, and telling his dad, well, he didn't do that well. Then they lost interest in the steamers, and